Well, it's the end of the road. It's end of the road in the sense of end of the year. A lot of things have not gone the way we thought, we anticipated, we were hoping, we were thinking it might go. It didn't really go the direction that we were looking at. Would this change as we move forward? Would this not change? Something that will always be on top of our mind, because as we come to the end of the year, then always you're already thinking of the next year. What's going to happen in 2026? Will there be any changes? Will this year still end with the bang? Well, we still have a draw cycle. We are on a Saturday, and therefore next week is a draw cycle, draw week. And from there on, there is another prospective draw week for the December 22nd. So as we always say, right, forever hopeful. We all anticipate, we all want to see more draws happening, at least this year. I personally would like to see at least one big bang draw before IRCC signs off for 2025. Whether it happens, doesn't happen, something that only IRCC can tell us. As of right now, Lena Diab, who is the Canadian Immigration Minister, when she's appearing for the CIMM meetings in the House of Commons and facing the questions from the parliamentary committees, she's not painting a very good picture in terms of being able to respond to a lot of queries and concerns. Bill C-12, I'm sure a lot of you are aware, a lot of you are not, but Bill C-12, the Strong Borders Act for Canada, continues to be at the forefront of ongoing discussions. We are hoping to see some strong measures being put into place, especially for asylum claims, especially for new temporary foreign workers, especially for also more authorizations and powers that will be given to IRCC as to what they can do with the applications, what they can do with the streams, what they can do with the already issued visas, work permits, any kind of permits for that matter. I think obviously this is going to go into the next year. But for this year, now that we have another, 25 more days left for this year, well, the only news for this year as we move forward is that a couple of things that, of course, there are possibility of two draw cycles, hopefully, two draw cycles, and of which at least one decent CEC. I know STEM has been something which been very disappointing. Of course, they didn't see any draw at all. In spite of the fact that they've removed IT Tech knock codes, we haven't even seen an agriculture draw, which is also very surprising because there's only one knock code there. I mean, they could have easily issued 100, 150 invitations and got that out of the way. Trade occupations draw also continued to be a big surprise. I mean, it's no brainer. It's no secret that there is a huge shortage of trades category in Canada, and in spite of that, they only conducted one. But then there is also this ongoing discussion about the cooks, right? Whether the cooks being part of the trade category, has that inflated the scores, inflated the pool, inflated that category, and is that the reason why they're holding it back? We've seen a lot of ATIP notes on that aspect. But of course, the star of the show has been the French category. They have stolen the limelight. They've remained at the center of stage. Actually, they are absolutely the rock stars of Express Entry for this year. 42,000 invitations issued for French category, and in comparison, approximately 43,000 some issued for everything else combined. So you can take a wild guess how it's going to play out next year. Next year, the political scenes between Quebec and the federal government are a bit of a topsy-turvy turns there. There are talks about new referendums being put into place. So we do not know which direction that goes. But this new push for French outside Quebec, could that be part of that larger picture? I don't know. Then there is also increased budget. I think about $3+ million being invested into increasing and into the settlement of Francophone minority communities outside Quebec. So all of that, is this just for optics, or is there some real political agenda behind it? It's going to be an interesting one. But for next year, what we do know, at least already, is that IRCC is planning to change some categories. That is something which has been made abundantly clear. Through the stakeholder meetings, we've already seen some of that coming out. We've already seen some signs of that in the budget. So that is something which we're keeping our eyes on. Earlier this year, when we saw the stakeholder meetings, there was an indication of them bringing some senior managers. Now, when we say senior managers, hold on, before you all rush to change your knock codes to the manager knock code, we're not talking about the knock zero. So for people who do not know, when you see a knock code, the second digit of your knock code is your tier category. For example, 122000, the tier code is 2, second digit is 2. 60030, the tier category is 0 because the second digit is 0. Same way, 13210, the tier category is 3 because the second digit is 3. So therefore, before you rush to identify if you are a senior manager or not, well, senior managers are not just a manager for a department. Senior managers are basically your general managers, vice presidents, CEOs, CXOs, CTOs, etc., senior directors, right? These knock codes are 000. So 00012, 00013, 1415. These obviously, as per the stakeholders, this hasn't been published, this hasn't been announced, so we do not know if it will actually roll out in this manner or not. But these are all speculations at this point of time. So 000 knock codes are anticipated. Researchers, scientific researchers, again, something which is becoming a highlight in the budgets as well as earlier discussions as well. Postdoc researchers, that is also something which they're looking at. In addition to that, military services. Now, I do not know how that gets played out. That do you have to be working in a military of a different country in order to be eligible in Canada? That's a bit of a gray area at this point of time. It's cloudy, foggy. I don't really know the exact criteria, but that's another one that they're looking to bring in. So, and from the existing categories, I personally believe healthcare should continue. I personally believe trades category should continue. I don't know much about STEM, agriculture and food, and education categories. Education category seems like it's on a bit of a cool down at this point of time. Again, only new year would tell us which direction this would go. At this point of time, healthcare and trades definitely look like they will be making a comeback in next year. Education, maybe not, depending on was IRCC able to meet its skills shortage targets for 2025 or not. Now, if you're interested in the skills shortage as to which occupations are considered as in skills, what are the highlights, what are the proposed skill shortages, or which numbers are they looking at, there is always a report called COPS, C-O-P-S, COPS report. Please take a look at it. I think the last edition was from 2024, and that COPS report will give you an idea of what are the manpower shortages that Canada is struggling to meet, and those will also make a comeback, or they will also make a they will probably figure out somewhere within the categories as well. So that's the way to go. The COPS report did talk about cooks, they did talk about the insurance agents, and therefore you saw those occupations making a appearance within the categories this year. Same thing, take a look at those categories again. That will give you a bit of an idea which direction we are going. So all of this in a big ratatouille being planned for next year. Let's see how this rolls out. But for this year, as I said, nothing much expected, except I'm not sure if there's going to be fireworks, if there's going to be a dam squib, if it's going to be any big blast, something of that sort. I don't know. Let's see how this plays out. As far as this week is concerned, nothing much happened except for one big news which came out of Ontario. Ontario is completely looking to rehash their entire program, their entire system, so that they can then streamline. Right now, they have about 8 different streams of pathways for PR. They're looking to break it down, or rather compress them into only 4 specific. We're going to talk about that in a bit, and that will also help everybody else plan their journeys. But based on that, it seems like some people might be disappointed because these streams will leave some of you guys out. All that hopes that we have had for certain categories, that might not be looking very positive, considering how Ontario is going to go out with this one. But let's talk about that with our weekly roundup. And let's start with this one first, and then we get on to the next one. PNP updates. Nova Scotia minimum wage has been increased, or rather it's set to increase reaching $17 by October 2026. That's always a good news when salaries increase. Ontario is planning to simplify the Ontario OINP program by reducing its age stream to 4 broader ones. This is what I was talking to you about. In phase 1, what Ontario plans to do is plans to merge all the employer job offer streams into one program with 2-tier based tracks. So 0 to 3 tier category, 0 to 3, that's what they will be concentrating a lot upon, because these are the skilled workers who are already in Canada. Again, these are going to be employer-based, employer-driven streams, obviously focusing on fair wages, your recent experiences, post-secondary education, and this post-secondary education requirement may be waived if you have been working for 6 months already in Ontario in the same job. Again, details are still fuzzy on this one. Have to wait and see which way they are going. And then it's tier 4 and 5 for shortage categories. It would require basic language skills, 9 months of experience, and they can also choose to take a special construction route that they have taken with the union validation before. So this is the construction pilot that they've had before, or the in-demand skill stream that they already have existing. That probably is going to go with the tier 4, 5. Same requirements, 9 months of experience, basic linguistic skills. Again, of course, it will target specific in-demand skills or in-demand occupations. So nothing different from the existing in-demand skill stream. I think that will continue. And then the first phase, that the tier 0 to 3, that is targeting your larger international student stream, your employer job offer stream. Those two, I think, are being compressed, or rather being merged into one and making it one big stream, giving a lot of people a chance, I would say. But I always thought international student stream was a good stream. It gave a lot of people an opportunity to apply fresh out of school. Like, they could just have 6 months of experience. They didn't really need a lot of experience. How they will roll this out, what will be the criteria? Again, this will be a welcome move. Let's see how this one goes. And then in the phase 2, so this, what I've just told you, that will happen in the phase 1. In the phase 2, they are planning to bring out absolutely 3 brand new streams that will replace the older ones. Now, this is where I don't see what happened to the master's PhD stream. I don't see what happened to the human capital priority stream, because what they're talking about in the phase 2, these 3 new streams, it's only going to be a healthcare stream for regulated professions. So probably the human capital priorities stream is taking shape into just one specific stream, which is going to be a healthcare stream. Then you will have an entrepreneur stream for those who have already started or bought a business in Ontario. This particular aspect has been lacking from Ontario for some time. So it's a good so it's a good thing that they're making a comeback on this one. And third and final one is the exceptional talent stream. I spoke about this last week as well. And this is with major achievements in research, science, tech, innovation, or creative fields. Very interesting, this one. I understand they might be looking to bring in some culinary chefs also as part of this stream, which is going to be, yeah, this is going to be interesting. I'm not sure if this would require you to already have an employer and a job offer or not, or would this basically be open to anybody who has past work experience or fulfills a certain criteria? But I know this is going to become this a lot of you are not going to like it, because this has no mention of master's and PhD graduate stream. It has no mention of human capital priority stream. It has no specific mention of the skilled trade stream, which of course all of you already know is at this point of time suspended. These streams as of right now have not been finalized. Ontario is still looking for public feedback. They're looking to sort of get to a discussion mode with the general public, and then bring it in and then finalize the stream. Of course, the criteria will be highlighted, but this is not going to happen tomorrow. This is not going to happen in January next year either. It will take a bit of time. Now, depending on how serious Ontario is with these streams, they can choose to hold back nominations, or they can choose to hold back any new draws early next year. Though, with the way things happen and with the way that this is just at the public stage for feedback, it is just at the discussion stage for the stakeholders, I don't see this taking shape anytime until, even if it happens in 2026, probably towards the end, mid or end of 2026. Until then, I think the way Ontario is with their existing 8 streams, that should continue. Skilled trade, I think even if they will come back with a skilled trade, it has to be with some sort of an employer support. They're not going to come back just like that. So that's how Ontario is rolling this out. Nova Scotia has already introduced a formal EOI system. So all your existing applications that you have already completed in Nova Scotia, they will now all be treated as expressions of interest. Earlier, you could just apply. Nova Scotia would consider your application. If they were going to give you a nomination, they would give it out to you. But what that would do for everybody was that it was leaving everybody in the dark. There was no certainty. There was no transparency. You did not know whether your application is going to get processed, and therefore you were stuck. You were in the dark. But now what they are saying is that they will treat everything as an expression of interest. So everything is same. You will still upload all your documents. You will give everything to them, but it will be treated as an expression of interest, which basically means that occasionally they will conduct draws. The top scoring profiles or the ones that they're interested in, those will be invited, and they might ask you for some additional proof of documents, forms, and then they will complete the nomination. This way, at least you know that until you have been invited, you really are not in the game. So it gives you a bit of clarity. Not sure how happy people are with this one. Manitoba is also now closing their provincial nominee program work permit stream. Now this, as I'm sure you already know, Manitoba was one of the few provinces. It was actually Manitoba, Yukon, and Alberta, 3 provinces that discussed and got approval from the federal government to get work permits for individuals who had been nominated by these provinces. In some cases, they were given not closed work permits, but open work permits. Manitoba was one of them. And they would give support letters for people whose applications were being processed, who had already received an ITA and they were processing their application, because the processing times were too long, and they absolutely were with the people and they understood that these people needed to get some status back. So, but this is also now coming to an end, and this is the final date is 31st of December that IRCC will accept these applications for work permit. And if you are still a person who has met all the criteria, all the requirements from Manitoba for your nomination, then you can contact them before 16th of December. In other news, possible new express entry category for Canadian Armed Forces. Now, this is one I said, which I'm not really sure how this is going to play out. So IRCC has been talking about within their internal briefings, implementation of a new category to support Canadian Armed Forces. The fact that IRCC already puts people in extensive security screening if they have any background in armed forces, military, intelligence, police. So those people already go through a very extensive background and security checks. And it seems now that is the new category that they are going to start for the Canadian Armed Forces. So I'm, again, a bit of a fuzzy on this one. See how this one also gets rolled out. For people who did not know yet, IRCC has updated their fees for international experience class, for restoration, and several inadmissibility services. So, for example, if you are one of those people who applied for a dummy extension and then once that is refused, you are looking to apply for a visitor record, please note that your restoration fees has gone up and you should pay the correct fees in order for your application to be accepted. So the new application fees for restoration only is $246.25. Please make sure you pay the correct fee. If you do not pay the correct fee, then your application can get refused. So then there is no point, your status is definitely not going to get restored at all. Well, that's basically what we had for the weekly roundup. As much as we wanted or we were hoping for fireworks, nothing much in terms of fireworks or anything explosive there from IRCC at this point of time. I'm hoping that they do get us excited when the draws are conducted next week. I saw one comment which I really wanted to respond to, and it says, is Ontario Human Capital Priorities Program closed? No, it is not closed. As of today, the programs in Ontario are still the same. Nothing has closed. Please bear in mind the program that you are thinking is closed has not closed. It's It's that Ontario is looking to revamp its programs. They are looking to merge their 8 streams into 4, and out of those 4, human capital priorities is not making any comeback. And again, at this point of time, this is only being discussed at the public level, then stakeholders, then the final discussions and agreement, and then finalizing, drafting the criteria, and updating the Ontario regulations. So there is some work to be done. Until then, the current process, the current nomination streams will continue. However, of course, Ontario can choose to draw whenever they wish to draw, or hold back the draws until they come back with the new streams. But at this point of time, the streams are not closed. The Ontario PNP programs continue with the way they are. Why portal accesses are slowed down from October, November with final decisions? Well, good question, but this usually happens towards the end of the year. We have always seen this happening. And this is predominantly because, and I think this is absolutely true, because it seems they may have already achieved their quota for this year. And if they have achieved their quota for this year, then obviously now if they don't want to exceed the numbers, right? They want to pretty much stick within that number range. So whoever are on their final stages, they will get all finalized hopefully early next year, so that they can count towards the quotas for next year. You will see this slowdown happening every year. I'm not saying everybody will get slowed down and everybody will get held back for next year, but you will see a by and large a slowdown in the finalizations. Even if you get your P2, getting a COPR might take a little bit of time. And again, all these will start seeing smooth flow, and they start getting released early next year. So I think you'll have to have a little bit of more patience in the whole process there. What one is this one? When is the right time to sponsor me after declaring me non-accompanying, as I'm studying yet married after COPR? So you see, this is the tricky one. If you have been declared as non-accompanying, well then what you've tried to do is you've tried to game the system, right? And that's what IRCC has had a big issue, and they've been refusing so many people. Like, I think hundreds of people have been refused because they chose to have their spouses not accompanying. And I'm sure you must have given some reason as to why you are not accompanying. So if you do become a permanent, if your spouse becomes a permanent resident, then you should not be in a haste to try and then sponsor the spouse that you have originally disclosed as not accompanying, because it would sound very, very contradictory to what you have disclosed in your PR application. So don't be in a rush. Strategize it, calculate it well before you make those decisions. And of course, have a very valid reason ready and available as to how come you are now changing your mind again when you've already disclosed your spouse is not accompanying. And I'm sure you must have given the reasons behind it. What are your thoughts on education category being continued in 2026? Well, I usually am very, very hopeful, but with education category, I have a feeling that if it is to continue, which I hope it does, there might not be a lot of quota for next year. This year also, they haven't really done a lot. It was only 3,000 ITAs. Second thing is that they have also identified that from the French immigration categories, so for example, this year, they have issued 42,000 invitations. So they have identified that of the French immigration categories and of course, the large number of those are coming from the African continent, the majority of the knock codes that people that do come in through those categories are teachers. And if at all that requirement of shortage of teachers is being met already, then they might take a bit more conservative stance towards continuing with the education category. And if they do continue with the education category, then you might see that the draws are a bit more limited, if I would say that, and or they might choose to sort of make some changes there. Again, this is all pure speculation. Cannot say, there is absolutely no data to support what I'm saying. I'm just talking about the fact of how many invitations they've issued in Francophone category, how many draws they have held there, and how many people with the teacher knock codes have been included, or rather have been invited, again, purely based on data there. And I also haven't seen education being spoken about in terms of categories in the COPS reports. or in any of the ATIP records which said that this is a continued shortage. For example, healthcare has always been indicated as a continued shortage. For example, trades has always been indicated as continued shortage. So you know that this is not going to go anywhere. Yes, there can always be some changes. They can remove some knock code, they can add some knock code, but I don't see. I mean, I haven't heard much about education, so this one stays out there in the clouds. Let's see how this one goes as well. Okay. What is your thought about incorporating the people working under OPS? I do not know what you mean by OPS, under employer job offer stream. I have no idea what you mean by OPS here. But as far as the streams are concerned, well, they're trying to convert, or rather trying to sort of merge a couple of streams into the employer job offer stream and the international student stream and the international skilled trade stream. They're all being merged into one, and calling that, and this in-demand skill stream. I think all four are being merged into one and calling it track 1 and track 2. In track 1, you have tier categories 0 to 3. In track 2, you have categories 4 and 5. And again, all of them have to be pretty much employer driven. I have to apologize. I can't take too many questions. I am not in Canada at the moment. I've been traveling, and it's been a bit difficult with all the travel as well as with the connections as well. Just going to take last couple of questions before I scoot off. Is Bridge Open Work Permit holders included in the inventory of temporary residents, since it is granted for those transitioning into PR? That is why I am asking if Bridge Open Work Permit still counted in the inventory. If you are talking about the temporary foreign workers or the international mobility, then you're right that these are the transitions, and have to be very honest, I have never really paid attention to this to see if they are included or not, because these are transitioning numbers, right? These are the people who already had a work permit and now transitioning into the permanent resident status. I personally feel they will not be included. They would rather want to only include the temporary foreign workers and people who are on the international mobility programs, like your francophone mobility, your postgraduate work permits, your spouse open work permits. Largely those will be the ones. At least that's how I would like to see this. If I see my COPR number in the PR tracker, does that mean my file is approved? Well, it basically means that they have progressed your application to a final decision, and that a system has generated your COPR number on that. It does not mean your application is approved just yet. They will still run some final checks, and only at that stage, once they have released your COPR, is when your application is released. There have been instances where even after getting P1, even after getting P2, people have received procedural fairness letters, their COPR numbers have been cancelled, and in some cases, refusals as well. So it does not automatically mean an approval. It does mean that the final decision has been made, subject to some last final checks, and that's the auto-generated number that shows up once that decision has been made. I got P1 for my PR application, but I have planned to travel to India. What should be my response? Well, your response, if you're inside Canada, you should say you're inside Canada. If you're planning to travel immediately, then let them know you're traveling immediately and ask them to, or request them to, hold back the processing. Because once they process the P1, then you should be in Canada for P2. Otherwise, that gap could create delays and unnecessary complexities. Right. As much as I would like to continue and answer more of your questions, and I know you want that, please, after this stream, in the comments section, please put your questions remaining today, and tomorrow I will try and respond back to as many questions as I can. Thank you for joining in. It has been a pleasure, and I shall see you again. Take care.